Welcome to February's Harvest of the Month. My name is Carrie Hollifield. I'm the Registered Dietitian for Charleston County School District, and with me here today is Allie from the Green Heart Project. We are going to be talking all about collards and doing a stewed collard recipe. Allie, will you tell us a little bit about how collards are grown?
Absolutely. So these collard greens here, I actually picked this morning from our urban farm at Ensign Home right in downtown Charleston. And so collard greens are, as you can see, a leafy green that we grow almost all around the year. They're really durable and hardy, which make them a great crop to grow in your garden that are relatively easy to take care of. So we have these growing in our gardens right now when the temperatures are cooler because collard greens have certain compounds in them that keep them from freezing and keep them able to grow even when temperatures get really cold and potentially even freeze. Another cool thing about collard greens in the winter is that when it's cooler temperatures out, the glucose, which is the sugar made in the plants, stays in the leaves because it's too cold to travel to the root, which means that these leaves, when we pick them in the winter, are sweeter than they would be at other times of the year. So we got some fresh collards here. These are the leaf of the plant. Really excited to cook with them today. And not only are they a great crop to grow in your garden, but they're also really great for your body. So Carrie, can you tell me a little bit about some of the health benefits of collard greens?
Absolutely. So collard greens are full of vitamin A, which we know from past lessons are really good for our eyes. They're also full of fiber, which is going to keep our digestive system going. But then they're also full of vitamin K. And this is a vitamin we haven't really gone over yet. So whenever you get a cut and you might bleed a little bit, vitamin K helps what's called coagulate that blood or make it thicker so that your cut heals faster. So vitamin K is very important for our bodies and for healing any kind of little wounds that you might get playing.
Awesome. Let's get cooking.
So today we're going to be cooking up some stewed collards. So to make these, we have our fresh collard greens. We're going to have our olive oil. We're going to have fresh garlic. We got some low sodium soy sauce. Make sure your item does say low sodium because soy sauce can be very high in salt. We also have some tomatoes, pepper, salt, and paprika.
Yeah. And so what we're going to do first is we are going to prepare all of the vegetables, so our collard greens and garlic, and then we're going to go ahead and cook it together in our pot here on the stove.
Perfect.
All right. So to prepare my collard greens, I'm just going to go ahead and stack them up like so. And one of the things in the collard green, you have the leaf, and then we have the stem down the middle, which can be really hard to eat. Since we're cooking it, it's not a big deal and we can leave it in and it'll get more tender, but if you're eating these raw, you probably want to cut that stem out to avoid having really crunchy pieces. So what I'm going to do to prepare this is I'm going to take these, and I'm actually just going to stack them up, and I'm going to do what's called a chiffonade cut. So I'm going to roll all my leaves together into a big bundle, and I'm just going to carefully slice my collards.
Allie, what was that term you used again? A chiffonade?
A chiffonade. So that means these thin, sort of ribbon-like cuts, which are going to be a perfect size for the recipe that we're making today. So we rolled it up, we're slicing it, and as I get down towards the very end of my stem, I'm going to go ahead and take these out and keep those for my compost. I can always pull off any other leaves that I see that are usable and softer, and then I'm going to set these aside. And some of these are pretty long, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to just take my pile and chop it down the middle to break them into some smaller pieces so that they're easier for us to eat. So these are my collard greens, chiffonaded and ready, and I'm going to keep those on my cutting board because we're going to have to heat up our pan before we put those in and put a few more ingredients. The second thing that I'm going to prepare is our garlic, which I'm going to mince, which means cut really fine and small. So I grabbed one garlic clove from this large bulb here, and so I'm going to mince it by taking off its skin, which we've done this before, but if you cut off the edge and press down on it with your palm carefully, the skin will come right off here. We can put that aside to compost.
It smells so good.
And then I'm going to carefully slice it long way. Our fresh vegetables are prepared. We have our minced garlic and our chiffonade collard greens. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna turn on our burner to medium heat. So this is gonna get warm, so we wanna be careful, making sure that we're not touching the pan because it's going to be hot. And I'm gonna go ahead and drizzle some olive oil into the pan. And this will help me to tell when it gets warm because it'll start to sizzle. So I'm gonna put my garlic in with the oil to start. This is gonna let it cook, start to smell really good like Carrie said. And I'm just gonna carefully kind of, yeah, if you want to stir that around, mix around as it starts to cook. So then now that our garlic has started to cook on the stove, we're going to put in some diced tomatoes with their juice in them. So these are some small pieces of tomatoes with tomato juice, and I'm just gonna carefully, because it splashes a little bit, pour about half this can, because we're just making a small recipe, into the dish. You can see bubbles starting to break the surface, which is a good sign. That means that it's starting to get warm and cook. So we're just gonna leave this on here. Again, we're making stewed collards, so we wanna give all of our flavors some time to stew with each other to pick up that garlic and the tomato, and once we put our spices in, we'll wanna let it all stew together. So we're gonna leave this here for a minute or two so it can start to pick up those flavors and be ready for us to add our collards. All right, so our tomatoes and garlic have stewed a bit, so now it's time to add our collards in. So I'm gonna just take these and gently kind of sprinkle them into our tray. And collards, it might seem like we're putting a lot in, but they cook down pretty small. So don't be worried if you're like, there's a ton of collards, it looks like it's overwhelming, because these will cook down and become smaller and it'll all balance out. So I'm gonna put these in and give them, actually Carrie, do you wanna give these a good stir to get them coated in our sauce so that they can start to, again, stew in that flavor and become really flavorful and delicious. And then to add on to these, I'm gonna put in our spices and soy sauce so that we can let it stew for a few minutes all together with all these flavors so that it's ready for us to eat. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my soy sauce and I'm gonna go ahead and pour some in. And again, this can be high in sodium, so you wanna be careful about how much you use. Set that down. We're gonna put some smoked paprika, which is gonna give it a really nice smoky flavor, a little bit of spice and kick to it as well. It's a really pretty red color, so it's gonna add a beautiful, I'm gonna put a lot in because I love smoked paprika. I'm gonna put a little bit of black pepper as well to give it a little spice and flavor. And then we put our soy sauce in there, which has some salt in it, but I am just gonna do a dash of salt, putting it in my palm first to make sure I put a good amount, just a dash of salt to add a little more flavor. And then Carrie's doing a great job of coating these all up with all of our flavors, and then what we'll do is we'll cover it for about 5 to 10 minutes until our collards are tender, and that's when we'll be ready to eat them. So we can cover them up. Perfect. And now we wait. All right, so this has been stewing for about 5 minutes now, and when we pull off the lid here, we can see that there are bubbles breaking the surface. It's been simmering, all those flavors. You can actually tell that the collard greens have changed colors and become a little bit darker as they've become more stewed and more tender. So this looks pretty ready to go to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut off our burner. And Carrie, will you pass me our serving trays there so we can prepare it for a taste test? Now, remember, this is a hot dish, so we might wanna give it a minute to cool down. It just came off of a hot burner, so this might be warm if we try to put it in our mouth right away. So let's give it a minute to sit, and then we'll do our taste test.
Allie, I'm so excited to try this. Will you tell our listeners the rules behind how we do our taste test?
Absolutely. So when we do a taste test with Greenheart, there are 2 rules that we follow. The first is that we're going to wait for everyone to have one so we can all try this together. Now, we're going to have to socially distance because we're going to be taking our masks off and we want to be safe. So we're going to try it one at a time. But if you're trying this with friends, I encourage you to all try it together so you can share this exciting experience of trying something new. The second thing that we follow in our Greenheart taste test is we don't yuck other people's yum. So if you don't care for this recipe, you tried it, you didn't really like it, we want to keep our thoughts to ourselves so that we're not rude to someone else who might like this. So we're not going to yuck each other's yums. And finally, we're also going to give it a Greenheart rating once we've tried it. So we're going to rate it either a 3 if we really, really loved it and it was delicious, a 2 if it was okay, but we might change something, and a 1 if you were brave and tried this new dish today, but it was just not for you. So as you're taste testing, think about what you like about it, any texture, any flavors, so that you can give it a Greenheart rating. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Perfect.
Man, I can smell all the different flavors that are in this. That is delicious. I give it a 3.
All right, I'm excited to give this a try. Let me get some collard, some tomato. I'm definitely gonna have to give this one a 3.
Wow, Allie. That was absolutely delicious. These stew collards were just amazing. Be sure to look out for these on your cafeteria line on February 23rd in all elementary schools and February 26th for all middle and high schools. We will see you in March.